our good pal Greg Auman. Sorry, Greg. It's a tough segue here. 4 years since we lost our guy Mark Cook, and I know you are the guy that you hand out the Mark Cook Good Guy Award to the member of the Tampa Bay media, member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that is the best with the media. I mean, there's really nobody like Mark Cook that we've met. Like he was a guy that in a world where you try to be objective and it's like, well, we're not a fan. Like Mark was unabashed a Florida State fan and a Bucs fan, but it didn't move him from doing funny segments with the players, but also holding them accountable. Like there really hasn't been, and I don't know if there'll ever be another guy quite like Mark Cook from Pewter Report.
I think about Mark all the time. The Bucs had an indoor practice like 2 weeks ago, and there was a guy with like a reddish beard and an FSU hat on walk, and it was for a split second, it's like he was back. Yeah, Mark, great guy, good friend. And like you said, I'm so happy we can do that. PFWA Good Guy Award is the Mark Cook Award, man. And it's sad, and that like Zion McCullum got it this past year. And like Zion never knew Mark. It was the first time we had one that we just have to tell him like, hey, this is who Mark was. So yeah, it's one of the we still miss him a lot. My daughter is a sophomore at FSU. And I always think about Mark just because how much, I'm a Gator. My whole family, I've got like 5 kids in my family. So it was always a point where we'd rib each other back and forth. But tell my daughter there now in Tallahassee, just drove her up on Saturday. I think about Mark a lot that way.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man, because, again, I was saying a little bit before of how him and I shouldn't have gotten along, a brash kid from New York and a kid from Plant City. And
yeah, right.
We would just always like throw jabs, but it was always a lot of fun. And he was just, you could take it and throw it back. And he just, what about the Lightning? Are they good this year? Like he would ask like these very like surface level hockey questions because he kind of wanted to stay involved. He's like, are they good? Or is everybody just kind of blowing smoke? I'm like, no, they're actually pretty good. He's like, all right, I guess I'll watch. Like, it was just, his sense of humor was so dry. And I know you're like that. Like you like people like that, man, because it kind of keeps you on your toes a little bit.
Mark would like back again, like you get into the grind of the regular season, it's really easy to just put your head down and you don't blink until it's January. And Mark always made a point to do a Thanksgiving dinner in the media room, and we get bricados, which is amazing Cuban food. And we had these. He had such a deal. I don't know how we pulled it off, but he had just a massive feast. I'm talking the deviled crabs, little cubanitos, ridiculous amount of food. And Mark always kind of spearheaded that. And I honestly need to get back to that. It's one of those where I remember it every year, and I remember it too late to set it up and get a big catering thing where we should do it. But it was a blast, and it was a really neat thing. It's a pretty good group we have in that room already, but it was neat to kind of bring everybody together and remind us to be thankful of everybody in that room and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, think about Mark all the time.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I'm telling you, man, just watching this team, he would love this team because they're going about things the right way. And I look at, we'll start with Kyle Trask. I mean, Greg, this guy he's really, we talk about like circumstance in life, and there's people in like, oh, I got this, and I can't believe this happened to me. And they're always so worried about the obstacles, and they let everything hold them down. Like Kyle Trask could have just been pissed off. He would have taken his ball and went home, or like they bring in Teddy Bridgewater, and I don't know about you, but like the game, and then Kyle's really like, okay, you guys want to bring in another veteran? I'm going to step my game up. And it's pretty cool to see from a guy that, obviously hasn't had a ton of experience there in a regular season game. But what would you say about the response from Kyle Trask?
Yeah, I thought he did really well. I mean, that's one of those where, I mean, again, I think we had thought there might be pressure from Michael Pratt as pushing him, battling for the 2. And Pratt's been hurt. Pratt actually just got waived injured today, so he's gone for this season anyway. But I thought he handled it really well. I mean, he comes in there. I mean, Bridgewater's a guy who's played a lot of football, hasn't played a ton in the last 3 years. But that's, I mean, in terms of what you have in your rearview mirror, in terms of Kyle Trask's comfort level, he had about 2 weeks there where it looked like he's just, unmatched. He's the 2. He's dressing every Sunday, nothing to worry about. And then, bam, you have, a 10-year NFL vet who's almost a coach on the field come in, and all of a sudden, I mean, Teddy probably didn't come in anywhere to be a 3. So now all of a sudden it's like, wow, okay, Trask has the lead right now, but Teddy's done more and is a super smart quarterback. Is going to pick things up quick. So all of a sudden Kyle has emergency. Like he has to play well. He can't, if he comes out and has a no touchdown 2-pick game, that's all we're talking about this week. And we're wondering which of them is going to come in after Baker first on the road in Pittsburgh on Saturday. So for him to come in, I thought he did really well from the get-go, through to Jalen McMillan, through to Ibuka. Didn't get a touchdown pass, but kind of led him down the field. Had a nice drive that ended with a rushing touchdown for somebody else, but kind of got the job done. No mistakes. I forget what he was, 12 of 16, I think is 16, what he finished with. Mm-hmm. He's had a lot of this is his 5th preseason. This is his 13th preseason game. I looked it up. He's at 1,800 yards of preseason passing. That's a lot.
My guess was close. I said 2,000, and then I was close.
So that was a close guess. You did well. But it's one of those where for him, he didn't get many chances during the season. So it means a little bit more to him. I think we always talk about how meaningless preseason football is. It's been Trask. That's the only time Trask has really got to play since college. You're talking about 5 years now. So I think for him, it's important. I thought he did really well. Just set the tone and just get people off his back a little bit. There's one little viral clip of him. It's a throw of him, and he's just way behind the receiver, and it's just like a 4-second clip. And again, he's thrown a couple hundred passes in camp already this year. It's one bad throw. So it's one of those where I don't think he's been remarkable in camp, but I thought he really helped himself under the spotlight to just come out and move the chains and get some points on the board.
Other than Kyle, and I know what you said, and we know this, it's tough to really take what happens in the preseason and say, all right, that's going to translate, or how much does that really help a guy as far as making the team, or whether he's going to be a starter or not. What other player helped himself the most outside of Kyle Trask with their performance in that game?
I would say a couple of defensive players first. There's a lot of undrafted rookie types that are battling for roster spots. J.J. Roberts is a guy that, helped himself, played, 42 snaps, played some nickel, played some safety, had kind of he had the tip that led to the Thunderberg interception. He played well, offensive line, there's guys battling for backup spots there that helped themselves. Honestly, Owen Wright's a guy. Owen Wright wasn't in camp. Owen Wright is out of work, had gone to rookie mini camp as a trial player with the Bucs and didn't get signed, catches a break, he gets an injury, and he comes in and, got it done. 18 carries, I think, at 87, 89 yards.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked fast.
And it's one of those where, had the touchdown, it's called back. Had the touchdown, it's called back, to where everybody in the stadium is now rooting for him to get a score. He's in a tight spot where I don't know that there's more in play for him than like being a practice squad 4th running back. But even if he got that, that's a great step from where he was, 2 weeks ago, still looking for work as camp started.
What do we think about the running back position as a whole, as far as the injury with Rachaad White? Does that put him in jeopardy of being ready for week 1? When you look at this team, I don't think they'd be unhappy with Sean Tucker going in as RB2, knowing that, man, he made the most of his opportunities to look good in camp the next day too. What do we know about the Rachaad White and also kind of the entire running back room? Because I thought one of the things I said the other day was great that Wright stepped up, but even when he couldn't go, here comes Josh Williams back into practice, and I thought he looked good too. So every running back really seems to kind of be taking the bull by the horns, going, hey, we're going to make the most of whatever touches we get.
It's probably one of the cooler positions to watch on Saturday, honestly, because we'll see Bucky probably for the only time of the preseason and see what he can do. Rachaad White's supposed to just be Todd called him day to day, so I don't think that's an injury right now that should impact week 1. I don't know if he plays Saturday. I don't know if he plays in the finale, but he still should be RB2. Tucker, it would open things up for Tucker because Tucker, basically, I think what helps him is just he has a new offensive coordinator that can be reminded. You get a fresh set of eyes. I think they trust Rachaad more from a pass protection standpoint, from a doing it all standpoint. But Tucker will dress as the 3. He could be the kickoff return guy. He's going to be somebody they find a way to get on the field, I think. And then you mentioned Josh Williams. Josh Williams is a really cool story. He's a guy that just unremarkable. You look at his numbers in college, and you're like, wow, he did well to get in and be on a roster. And then Baker Mayfield is singing his praises, and Todd Bowles is singing his praises. And they're excited to have him back. He missed like a week and a half with injury, but he's back. I promise you they will give him a look. It's not going to be 18 carries for Wright this time around. I think they have somebody else they can throw in there. And I think they want to see what he can do, because here's a guy with upside that they like. You want to have kind of that developmental back. You think about, Rachaad White's going to be an unrestricted free agent after this season. Sean Tucker is a restricted free agent, but I don't know that they tender him. So he's also essentially an unrestricted free agent. So they have an opportunity to turn things over after having basically the same backfield now for this will be 2 years with Bucky, but it's fun to see. That's a position that could have some change over the next year. So everybody's trying to kind of get in, and even that practice squad spot, one guy gets hurt, all of a sudden you're elevated and you're dressing as the third running back. So cool for Wright, for Josh Williams, or whoever can take advantage of that and get on the practice squad.
All right, we got 37 wide receivers now we got to deal with too, Greg. I mean, you look at Ryan Miller and Garrett Green, like, oh, okay, you guys want to step up, and then you're like, oh wait, well, you got Jarrett and Shepard and Palmer and all these other and Tez Johnson, and it's like, oh yeah, we didn't even mention the first 4 guys on the depth chart. Like, how many do you think they keep? When I look at it, and people keep saying there's 4 wide receivers, I think there's 5. I don't think you have Tez Johnson as a guy that you're running plays for him. You saw it the other day where there was a fake handoff and Baker just pitched the ball kind of on an end around play with Tez Johnson. He's their gadget guy. He's going to be their return guy. It just seems like everybody keeps saying the 4 guys, and of course we're including Godwin in there. I think there's 5 guys, and then you're looking at 1 or 2 roster spots for everybody else. Do you think they keep 6? Do you think they keep 7? And who's got the inside track right now in those spots?
Yeah, there's nothing good about Chris Godwin being hurt, but if he starts the year even inactive, or especially if he's on the PUP list, that puts one more receiver on the roster. That lets you essentially keep 7 instead of 6. I do think Tez Johnson's pretty safe. He doesn't look like a 7th round pick. He doesn't act like a 7th round pick. I think he'll have the return job. So unless he stays, he was back at practice. I expect him to play Saturday. If he's injured, that complicates things. But I think of him as being in as now the 5th. And now you're looking at, like you said, you're looking at Rakim Jarrett, Sterling Shepard, Trey Palmer, Ryan Miller. All 4 of those at most are competing for 2 spots. That's not counting Cam Johnson. That's not counting anybody else in the mix.
Yeah.
So no, Trey Palmer has been hurt and is running out of time to remind people what he can do. I felt like Trey didn't necessarily do a great job of taking advantage of an opportunity he had last year with so many guys hurt. Finished with 11 catches. So he could, but if he's not a returner, he hasn't really been as productive on offense to where you worry that I think Trey's a guy that if he were cut here, he'll go somewhere else. He'll catch 25 passes as somebody else's wide receiver 4 or 5. But again, Rakim Jarrett is going to be there on special teams. I think, Ryan Miller stepped up more than anybody did. In terms of, that's a guy that consistently was getting open, was trusted by Trask. I think he finished with 7 catches, got his bell rung twice. Got absolutely sandwiched like the Return of the Jedi, both sides at once, and then came back in and got absolutely drilled again. So toughness is not a factor there. Ryan Miller, I don't think people expected to make it last year. He's probably been overlooked by most people that look at these battles at the bottom of the roster here.
I think he's got to make it because he was one of you mentioned about Trey Palmer not stepping up. Like Ryan Miller had some of those grabs in the middle of the season last year when Godwin and Evans went down. It was like, Ryan Miller, who the hell is Ryan Miller? I was like, well, we kind of saw that in training camp. Like, all he does is make plays, Greg.
Had a touchdown. They had an important touchdown somewhere.
Yeah.
I forget what game it was.
I think it was Kansas City.
My memory last year is blanking. But yeah, it's one of those where, you have to decide, I think they recognize that it's not like in past years where the best receivers you cut, okay, you'll get them back in the practice squad. That's probably not the case.
Right.
So if you cut Rakim Jarrett, he's probably somewhere else. If you cut Trey Palmer, he's probably somewhere else. You might have a Garrett Green that comes back on the practice squad. You might have Cam Johnson back on the practice squad. But no, they have a really talented, deep. I would have said they had a talented group before they added Ibuka and Tez Johnson in the draft. So they're just really deep group, and they're going to have to make some tough decisions here in 3 weeks.
On the defensive side of the ball, where's your level of concern when it comes to a guy like Chris Brazwell? Because, you get this guy and, before I looked at the entire game and the entirety of him, like, not doing well, you're thinking to yourself, this is a 2nd round pick from last year, and he's still out there. Right. And you're looking at everybody else is on the sidelines and you're looking at this kid that's still out there. I fear that I don't want to say that it's another JTS situation, but this kid, he's got to do something. Everybody kept saying like he was a little light last year. He's got to put on more muscle. He's not the biggest guy. That's what. And then people are saying this year going in, well, he's leaner. I'm like, wait a second. Like I thought he was supposed to put more weight on. I got so confused when it came to the Chris Brazwell discourse. I'm like, what the hell's going on? It wasn't impressive, Greg. What do we have to see from him over the next couple of weeks? And is this something where people aren't talking about enough? Do you go out? I don't want to say go out and make a splash, but do you possibly go out and get a veteran guy or maybe another person to put the numbers in? Because is Marquise Watson, Jose Ramirez really jumping off the board either? I don't think so. And we know what Anthony Nelson is. He's a solid 3rd, 4th guy coming in after Hassan Reddick and Yaya Diaby.
Yeah, it's a tough spot because, I mean, obviously they had David Walker and they lost him.
Right.
So you're already a little bit down in the position in terms of upside. I don't think like Brazwell and JTS are, I don't think, the same thing, but like Bowles went out of his way. He was asked, was it disappointing? And he was like, no, it wasn't disappointing at all. He had 3 tackles and was physical. So he saw something most people did not, because I think most people were surprised. That's one of those where Titans dropped back a lot and you just didn't see Brazwell getting consistent pressure. So he has a window here where, I mean, he probably would be outside linebacker 3 right now. Would be the next guy in. Obviously, Hassan Reddick's an expensive guy on a 1-year contract. So there's a world in which Reddick gets re-signed here, but there's also a world in which they move on, whether because he's amazing and he's making $25 million a year, or they just decide to move on. So he has a path where if he plays well, if he gets 6-7 sacks as a rotational pass rusher, he'll be in line for a bigger role next year. But if he doesn't, then they're going to draft someone over him is the problem. David Walker, I don't think was going to necessarily overtake him this year, but that's a threat. Anthony Nelson, like you said, is reliable. He can do a little bit of everything for him. They love Anthony Nelson, but he's not the upside. I think he's kind of has a floor and a ceiling that are both, right around the BB plus, if you will. Bradwell's a 2nd-round pick. He's the guy that they need to act like someone drafted in the, the top 50 picks. And it's not to say he can't do that. It's one preseason game. They've been high on him. He's someone that I think having him there gave them reason not to take a pass rusher in the first, whatever it was, 3 rounds. So he just has to make good on that. And doesn't have to necessarily do it in preseason. He just has to be somebody who's making plays. You think about Joe Tryanchenko, being kind of a 4-sack guy every year. Bradwell can be more than that. You can be a 6-7 sack guy. He's not going to beat out Reddick. He's not going to beat out Diaby. But the idea is that when you bring him in and the tackle's like, oh, thank goodness I don't have, multi-time Pro Bowler lined up against me, you get that guy to underestimate him and he gets a sack or a fumble. He has to be able to do that.
Greg, now that we've gone through so many training camp practices and now one preseason game, and I know we didn't see the starters, what's your vibe with this team when you have your finger on the pulse of, I said this on Monday's show. I loved practice on Monday, and I thought it was unique that Todd Bowles brought everybody in. And I think you asked the question because I thought they were practicing well. Like there was a pop to it. I think he was just kind of trying to manage the emotion because of how emotional the game. But the guys were out there. Funderburk's making plays. Kindle Vildor's making plays. The running backs. Like I thought the practice on Monday was not a practice of we won a preseason game. Let's ease into the week. It was a team that was ready to go. And it kind of reminded me of the practices when Tom Brady was here. And I just, I don't like to put the cart before the horse here, but I think it's going to be very weird if this team is not a very good football team this year. It just seems to be like there's so many good things. I love the coaching, the way that they have the finger on the pulse. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of question marks. And you have the 2 biggest would-be distractions in undrafted free agents in Shiloh Sanders and Desmond Watson. And it's not really, it's a story, but it's not like hanging over anybody's heads. That doesn't happen unless you're a really solid organization as a whole. Forget a football team, a solid organization as a whole. What's your feeling when it comes to the Bucs and just being around them the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's a different team than last year or any of the Brady years, but it has a little bit of the feeling of like 21, which is really the last time they were like seen as the team to beat. Right. I think everybody was kind of excited about Atlanta a year ago. Atlanta's still right there. Atlanta swept them a year ago, so I'm not trying to dismiss Atlanta, but these are guys that, wherein most years, even if they're a defending champ that's getting slighted and needs a little extra motivation from the bulletin board. No, so-and-so had him 17 in a power ranking. That's just wrong. And now I think it's kind of like, no, they think of themselves as a team to beat, and they'd like to do more than a division title, which is a good place to be, because it's one of those where, for them to have 4 straight division titles is unheard of in their history. But I think they also recognize there's only 1 playoff win in that run. I guess it's 2. I'm sorry. But it's one of those where for them, their success or failure is something that's going to be decided in January. And all they're trying to do is set themselves up for it, And I think, week 1, it's so perfect for them to go to Atlanta in week 1, because that's a chance to, even though they already kind of have the division to beat title, you're going to the place where they beat you against the team that swept you. They can retake that and be like, okay, now the tiebreaker works in this favor. You're the one chasing us if you didn't think you were before, that kind of thing. So I think that's big. Yeah, I mean, there's a confidence, and it's not like you think about guys like Baker Mayfield. You can have swagger, you can have too much.
Right.
I don't think of it as bravado or
No.
overconfidence or arrogance. I just think they know what they have, and I think they know they had a really good group on offense. I think they're going to have a much better group on defense. The guys on offense, if anything, spend as much time singing the praises of the defense in the last 2 weeks. And that speaks well because, again, they need to get a lot more turnovers than they did last year. They have to be better against the pass. But if they're healthy, they really should be. When you think about starting the year without Cansey and having spells without Dean and spells without Winfield, losing Dennis for whatever, the last 4 months of the season, they were hurting on defense. And they'll probably have injuries at some point again, but the odds are they're a healthier defense than they were a year ago. And I think that'll help them be a better defense. I don't know if that translates to more than 10 or 11 wins or a playoff win or anything like that, but they're in position to be more than they were last year.
Yeah, I just look at it like incrementally. Like offense, okay, it might take a little bit of a step back, maybe. But defensively, there's just so many other pieces that you look around. Like the pass rush should be better. Servase Dennis should make the team better. You have more guys in the secondary, right? Like Antoine Winfield didn't have a great year. So it's just like you look at like 8 things on defense that you're hoping to be better. Greg, if 4 of them are better, 5 of them are better. Right. You're thinking that, right? This team won the division the last 4 years, right? So that's what,
And it's that weird thing where I think people think about additions like something obvious, like Hassan Reddick. He wasn't here last year. He's here now. But like just getting, if Winfield goes from 24 Winfield to 23 Winfield, that's an all-pro that you're getting back.
That might be a defensive that's a defensive player of the year candidate, pretty much.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And who was not last year. And again, I think Tyke Smith next to him can be a big upgrade. I mean, I think people were excited about Jordan Whitehead a year ago at this time, but I think Tyke Smith can do a lot. And I think in terms of versatility and moving pieces around, he does that a lot better. I think Servase Dennis, there really wasn't a second linebacker last year doing anything next to Levante David. So to have a 34-year-old who's really carrying somebody is tough. And I think if Dennis is healthy, I think he's going to let Levante be Levante and not worry about the guy next to him and be able to freelance more, which means getting sacks and getting blitzes and stuff like that. And then, I mean, up front, I don't think people realize how much better they are when Vea and Cansey are healthy together, and what that does for the edges and what that does for disruption in general, and to have the last 2 seasons start without Cansey, to have him come back and he's hurt. This is the first time he's really had unmitigated, just get ready for the season, play at your best in week 1. And I think that could really change things, whether it's Diaby that benefits from that, whether it's Reddick, I don't know. But that front with those 4, I think can do a lot more consistent pressure and damage to where they don't have to blitz crazy, ridiculous amounts as they had for a lot of last year.
And I think, too, another guy that not a lot of people talk about, I think he knows his role, is Logan Hall. This is a guy that's a run stuffer. He's a freaking mountain of a man, and I think he's Will Golston 2.0, right? I truly believe Logan Hall is going to be here like 12 years. He's going to be that guy that's just going to stop the run, right? Get in there early downs, be consistent, be available, and go from there. And I really like Roberts, man. He won a huge rep the other day, Elijah Roberts. That's another guy that you're going to rotate in. That was an absolute beast. Listen, we saw how good he was against the Bulls a couple of times, so we don't want to bring up that for sure. Greg, before I let you go, let everybody know we got up on foxsports.com, man. You're just absolutely crushing it over there.
I'm doing. I'm actually. I got stopped in the middle of it. I was just running through all 13 drafted quarterbacks and what they did in the preseason this weekend. Everybody saw Shedeur Sanders. Everybody saw Cam Ward against the Bucs. But just run through the rest of them and the good and bad of everybody and what they did in their first weeks and what it means. Is this guy a 2? Is this guy a 3? Looking at the rookie quarterbacks and I'm not going to Pittsburgh, so it's kind of a light week that way. I wish I was up there for the joint practices and Aaron Rodgers and all the circus that goes with that. But back here and just getting ready for things from there.
Greg Auman, Fox Sports. Follow him on all social media platforms at Greg Auman. Greg, you're always making the show a whole heck of a lot better. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer in the great Gregs of Tampa Bay. You, Greg Wolf, and Greg Gaines. I think you guys are the first class.
Above Greg Gaines, I don't know.
Yeah, you're definitely above Greg Gaines. You and Greg Wolf.
Motivated.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, my friend. Greg, you're the man. I appreciate it, buddy. Talk soon.
Thanks, Jay.
You got it, pal.